Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, brought to you by BuckeyeHuddle.com. I am Marc Givler, joined by Kevin Noon. Another commitment episode today. For the second consecutive day, Ohio State has added an offensive lineman to its 2026 recruiting class. Yesterday, it was obviously Sam Greer, the top lineman in the state of Ohio. Today, the Buckeyes went all the way out to Arizona and grabbed Tucker Smith out of Glendale, Arizona, O'Connor High School. A very fast-moving recruitment as far as the Buckeyes are concerned. Smith has several scholarship offers. Some of the bigger ones are Iowa State, Kansas State, USC, Washington were some of the bigger ones that Smith had kind of picked up a lot of momentum this winter with the offers. But visited Ohio State last week, landed an offer on March 21st. We're sitting here on the evening of March 26th, about, an hour and a half after his commitment. And so 5 days after receiving the offer and, roughly 5 to 6 days after visiting Columbus, he has committed to the Buckeyes. Again, that's like insert your, boy, that escalated quickly meme here. Things move very quickly. I jumped right on it. Kevin, just your immediate thoughts on this, because this happened very quickly.
Yeah, I was perusing Twitter and suddenly saw all the buzz and was like, I'm not sure I'm familiar with this kid. So I looked and I found out, it only took him less than a week to come to the end of his process. He's a good-looking kid. I think that sometimes Arizona is a state that maybe doesn't get properly rated right out of the gate, because you've got to go and you've got to get Florida right. You've got to get Texas right. You got to get California right. These days, you got to get Georgia right and North Carolina right. So I think the Star Chasers may be a little concerned. 3 stars, what the heck does that mean? But I think he's somebody who looks like a 4-star caliber player to me. Can play really any position on the line. I'll let you kind of get into what his future may look like. But very physical kid, and Ohio State has had some success going out to Arizona in the past. Now we'll see what a lineman from Arizona looks like.
Yeah, about 6'5", 280 pounds. Again, 2 in 2 days, 3 in 2 weeks here on the offensive line. Tyler Bowen really establishing himself on the recruiting trail. This is a kid. This one feels kind of like a Tyler Bowen special, of a guy that he has identified. Wasn't a guy who we were really talking about when Justin Fry was here, and so Tyler Bowen identified this guy, got him on campus, got around him and his family for a couple of days, and everything seemed to click. And again, 5 days later, here we are with a commitment. We can run the video now. I'm just going to kind of talk through this a little bit. So he plays left tackle primarily at his high school. He, again, good feet, finisher, a guy who is going to probably play guard at Ohio State, despite playing left tackle and quite frequently in high school. But again, you can see him get out and finish his blocks. He's explosive coming out of his stance. He's plays with a pretty good pad level for a guy who's 6'5". He's able to get his pads down. So really a guy who I think checks a lot of the boxes of what you're looking for, is maybe a future left guard. Kind of the interesting thing about Ohio State's guards right now are that these are guys who played tackle in high school. Like Donovan Jackson was a tackle in high school. Luke Montgomery was a tackle in high school. Austin Siereveld was a tackle in high school. So a lot of Ohio State's guards were high school tackles. It's very common for high schools to just put their best offensive lineman at left tackle. But he does play some guard again for his high school team as well. He is a versatile kid. Reminds me, everyone. I don't love the player comparisons. I know everyone wants them all the time, though, so I usually oblige. He does remind me of Austin Siereveld a little bit. I saw a lot of Austin in high school and really liked him. And at the time, he was playing a lot of tackle, but you knew he was probably going to be a guard at the college level. And just his size and his physicality, his toughness, but also pretty technically sound. So there's some comparisons here that I think are fair. In terms of that, I think Ohio State and Ohio State fans would be very happy if Tucker Smith's career followed a similar path to that of Austin Siereveld, who got on the field fairly early at Ohio State and has become one of their better linemen and will be one of their best linemen here this coming fall. So that's kind of where I see him right now, as a guy who, as someone who's kind of new on the Ohio State radar, and I'm probably not as familiar with as like a Sam Greer or a Max Riley or a Champ Smith or, some of the bigger national names. But kind of my first instinct watching this film was I liked the versatility, I liked the physicality, and again, kind of watching Austin Sierreveld in high school quite a bit. That's a guy that they kind of remind me of each other a little bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison. We didn't discuss it pre-show or whatever, so I'm sitting here and I'm kind of processing it as Marc is saying it, and I guess I can see some of those types of comparisons. I think one of the big things for me is always looking at who he's going against, and Arizona is one of these emerging states in terms of talent, and it's in high school football. You do see a lot of people leaving the state of California and heading to the greater Phoenix area in search of better jobs, lower taxes, #stick to sports, everything else. So I think that the talent in Arizona today is significantly better than maybe what the talent was 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ago. So I don't think that I'm necessarily having any sort of concern about who he's going against. Now, if you go out and you get a offensive tackle out of like Vermont, then maybe I'm a little bit concerned because he's just going against a bunch of maple buckets at that point. But I think that this is a kid that it fits because yes, you want to sit there and tackle. Tackle's this huge need. This is a kid who in the Luke Montgomery type of situation could fit in multiple buckets. The show brought to you by Buckets. Multiple buckets in terms of the line, but guard seems to be, as Marc had said, where they're getting him there. You get Sam Greer and what he does in his position, and you can kind of start to see how they're trying to make sure that they're getting guys to fill each of the needs. And I think that that's important because it's easy to go out and say, well, just go out and draft the best players available and just kind of sort it out at the end. But, you need to sit there and have guys who have, the ability and the experience to be able to play in these different roles. Now, that's not to say that over at O'Connor High School, they're going to say, well, he's going to be a guard at the next level. We're going to play him at guard. No, they're going to still play him at tackle. Jobs are on the line for coaches and everything else. They got to put their best players at quarterback, corner, left tackle, those types of things. But, a lot of excitement with this, especially for somebody that, again, I've known the name for about a grand total of 2 hours now. So I'm still playing catch up.
Yeah, I mean, this all did come together very quickly. As far as like Ohio State goes and like the guard tackle thing, they need guards in this class. I mean, look, they need interior. Let me rephrase that. They need interior linemen in this class. Carson Hinsman is going to be a senior. Tegra Shabola, I believe, is going to be a senior. So you have one or two. The whole COVID thing's got me jacked, but you're not going to have Shabola much longer. Luke Montgomery's a third-year player. Austin Sierraveld's a third-year player. Like, you have all of these third and fourth-year players on the interior of your offensive line. So you are going to need to replenish that now. You don't replenish that when they're gone. You replenish that while they're still here as upperclassmen so that you can develop these guys for a year or two before you throw them into the fire. So they need, as much as everyone wants to obsess over tackle, which I'm as guilty of as anyone, you do need interior guys in this class as well. I think Max Riley is probably an interior guy. I think Smith is definitely going to be an interior guy for Ohio State. But if you look at like their big fish they're going after, a lot of them are tackles. So they do need to find some guards. I think Deron Parks is probably a guy who could scoot inside to guard at the next level. And that's a guy they're recruiting very hard right now. But like, Felix Oho and Jackson Cantwell and Champ Smith maybe could move inside too, but he's kind of a tackle as well. Like, there's a lot of tackles out there. They do have to find some guards, so that they've got a couple here now, I think, in the class. And again, like, Tyler Bowen is moving right now. We joked about this yesterday, like, soak up all this goodwill now, because the minute a big 5-star from out of state goes somewhere else, it's going to be, it's the same old stuff. So soak it up now, but he's winning the hearts and minds, is he not?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm surprised that people have not put him ahead of Hartline and OG Walt at this point in terms of being the hot recruiter on the team. I do have my roster here. Both Tegra and Carson are listed as seniors with 2 years of eligibility left. But
Okay.
again,
Yeah,
we're playing. If you're playing well enough, I mean, if you've been there for 4 years, that's good enough to go to the next level. You don't see a lot of truly straight 3 and dones. I think that if Ohio State has a good season, I mean, both Tegra and Carson move on, and that creates more necessity at that point. So I don't get too caught up in what the eligibility number is, because again, it's as with redshirting. If you're redshirting somebody, more often than likely you're redshirting him for his next stop, not his current stop, because that's just kind of how it works. But yeah, he does need to bottle this this goodwill out there and just take little real small sips of it just to sustain it, because if somebody gets away, it's not going to take very long for the hate machine to start.
But look, this is what I think everyone was hoping when they landed Tyler Bowen to replace Justin Fry. Was they've been clamoring for better recruiting results, and 3 commitments in 2 weeks, two in-state priorities. He goes and picks a guy from Arizona that he likes. You're not reaching at this point for a kid from Arizona, in March. If you're taking a kid from Arizona in March, you really like him. So they've done that now. And again, this class, nothing they've done so far pushes anybody away either. Like they've got plenty of room still. They've got at least 3 spots left. I think they could take 7 if they really wanted to. Now, would you want to? That's a whole different podcast probably about roster spacing and everything else. But you could easily take 6 for sure. And so you still got all these spots. You still got these national offensive tackles you're trying to land. You've still got a very good crop of uncommitted in-state linemen who you haven't offered yet that I'm sure you'd love to see in May and June. In May, you'll be able to go out and see them at the college days, college showcases that the high schools get to run now in May in Ohio, and then in June at camps. So there's still so many options here, and you've already got 3. We talked about this yesterday. Last year at this time and kind of moving into the spring, it was like, oh, this class, it hinges so much on David Sanders, and if they get David Sanders. And again, I'm not saying Jackson Cantwell isn't important. I'm not saying it. It wouldn't be amazing for Ohio State if they could get Jackson Cantwell, or that you don't do everything you can to get Jackson Cantwell. But it just doesn't feel this year like, oh, if they don't get Jackson Cantwell, I don't know what they're going to do. And that's how it felt last year with David Sanders. And so again, this is another example of them really shoring things up early so that they can go out and chase the Jackson Cantwells of the world without fear of, oh no, what's going to happen if we don't get him? They've got this good foundation now.
Yeah, there wasn't as much of a safety net last year with, regardless of what the David Sanders decision was going to be, to kind of echo what I said on yesterday's show. I think that there was probably a lot more potential fear and doom that would have happened if Sam Greer would have gotten away. Yes. But even at that point, I don't know if we're necessarily talking about all of the eggs being in one basket. So they are sitting in a position now this season where even with a couple of guys that have gotten away out of the state of Ohio, I don't think that there's any reason for Ohio State fans to be concerned that this class is not going to come together. There may be a couple of different names in there than maybe what we were talking about 9 months ago, but to Marc's point, there are a lot of very talented Ohio players that are not offered yet. That, and I think that sometimes what happens is that people will be like, well, obviously, if they weren't offered 2 years ago, that's a plan B. No, this is a case of offensive line is the most difficult position to evaluate, and especially kind of a year-to-year type of situation. Yeah, you could be, 310, and we're going to have to bust you down to 260 to build you back to 290, and that's a 2.5-year process. I think that Ohio State is sitting in a position to where it can be pretty selective still and come up with quite possibly the best offensive line class in the conference, and which would then put it in the tops in the nation.
Yeah, it's a great start. And we talked about this right when the transition happened from Fry to Bowen. We said, look, the top targets are going to remain the top targets. So they're not going to, their thoughts about Max Riley and Sam Greer and Jackson Cantwell and Champ Smith aren't going to change. But what could change is you got a fresh pair of eyes now, a different pair of eyes. And you could see some new names emerge, and that's what we're seeing here. Is Tyler Bowen kind of hand selecting someone that he likes from out of state. So feels like a very solid pickup. Again, it's a guy that clearly Tyler Bowen liked on film and then got to know in his visit to campus and was sold on that component as well. And so here we are now with Ohio State having going from 0 to 3 offensive line commits in roughly 2 weeks. So very strong run here for Ohio State and Tyler Bowen. And again, we actually appreciate Tucker doing this now, because we were going to reset the O-line board here in a couple of days, and we're glad he's going to give us a little extra reason to do that now with his commitment. So we'll have a really interesting reset here coming in a couple of days. But any final thoughts here, Kevin, as the Buckeyes add another lineman?
No, I just better stay on Twitter a little bit longer, stay near my phone for text messages and things of that nature, because
tomorrow, I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. I mean, it's who knows? I mean, I will
come
be
and
on
freeze,
campus.
Kevin.
Yes, they do. They really do. I will be on campus tomorrow for interviews around 11 o'clock. Look for us to. I know a lot of people are going to listen to this after the fact, but on the 27th, around 11 o'clock, we will get some player interviews. We'll have that, of course, here at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle.
Yep, and lots of pro day coverage. If you haven't seen it already, we have Will Howard's entire throwing session on our YouTube channel. We've got some 40-yard dash stuff. We've got some interviews. I think Jack Sawyer, Ryan Day, a couple other people, Donovan Jackson. I'm probably missing a couple, but lots of good stuff from Ohio State's Pro Day, which took place earlier today here as we record on Wednesday evening. So thanks, everyone, again, for your support, for watching, listening, and we'll see you over at BuckeyeHuddle.com and right here on the YouTube channel tomorrow morning for player interviews. But again, thanks, everyone, for watching, listening. We'll talk to you again soon.